reporting from Arkham Asylum. This is Gotham Rogues. In this video, we take a look at the Batman the Animated Series episode, Birds of a Feather. The episode Birds of a Feather was written by Chuck Menville and Bryn Stevens and directed by Frank Poore. In it, Penguin's being released from prison after having served time for a theft. This time, something's different though. Oswald learned his lesson and decided to change and become a respectable member of society. Upon returning to the world, Penguin meets a doubtful Batman who refuses to buy into Cobblepot's talk of reform and warns that he'll be watching. Oswald is however also contacted by well-known socialite Veronica Vreeland, who invites Penguin to a dinner date at a fancy restaurant. Oswald sees this as an opportunity to finally enter Gotham's high society and happily accepts. During the date, Penguin's charmed by the graceful lady and becomes completely smitten with her. However, unknowingly to him, it's all a ploy on the part of Vreeland, who's intending to use Penguin as a jokey gimmick at one of her big parties. After learning about this, Oswald is of course completely crushed and kidnaps both Vreeland and her accomplice Pierce Chapman, intending to get his revenge. It's now up to Batman to save these two not-so-innocents and bring back Penguin to the pen. Birds of a Feather was the first in a long line of villain reform episodes that this show produced. After all, one of the trademarks of Batman the Animated Series was how it humanized the rogues. Out of all those types of episodes, I'd say this one is actually the best. What makes it so great is that Penguin is completely genuine about his reform. He truly intends to leave crime behind him, and he also genuinely falls in love with Veronica Vreeland. This episode would have been nowhere near as good if Penguin was merely pulling a feint and secretly hatching some big scheme. They wouldn't have cared about him then and only viewed him as yet another unsympathetic, conniving villain. If it weren't for Veronica's cruel betrayal, Oswald would have stayed on the straight and narrow, and that makes it all the more sad. Not only does she break his heart, but she also ruins his noble attempt at redemption. Although Penguin is technically a villain, he's not really the antagonist of this episode. He's actually the protagonist, and the true villains are Veronica and Pierce. However, while Pierce has zero redeeming qualities, Veronica isn't exactly pure evil. She does actually grow a bit fond of Oswald and begins to feel bad over how she's playing him for the fool. If Penguin hadn't accidentally found out about their plot, Veronica might have saved things between them and they could have become actual friends, with him never knowing about her initial ill intentions. There are so many what-ifs in this episode. Right before Penguin switched back to his old ways in a quest for vengeance, Bruce was finally convinced that Oswald's reform was genuine. That presents us with another possibility, that the two of them might have become friends instead of deadly enemies. While this episode is very tragic, there are also many fun and comedic moments in it, such as when Oswald leaves prison, he expects the other rogues to throw him a big bash and have him picked up in a limousine, but instead there's nobody waiting for him and he's forced to take a bus. That's hilarious, the Penguin on a bus with a bunch of shabby looking people. Then of course the scene where Batman mistakes Penguin for robbing Veronica Vreeland with a group of thugs, when in reality Oswald and Veronica were on their date and Cobblepot defended her from a bunch of muggers. It's absolutely delightful to see Penguin in action like that, playing out his fantasies of being a dashing swashbuckler who rescues fair damsels. He's got a very romanticized view of the world, which is something we sometimes see in the comics as well, particularly older ones, before Penguin became a mob boss. This makes him a charming and kind of naive character, but while that's fun, it also adds to the tragedy of this episode. The guy who voiced Penguin, Paul Williams, mostly known as a composer and recording artist, did an absolutely excellent job. He does this kind of odd-sounding, well-mannered voice, and I just love his delivery of Penguin's sophisticated dialogue, like when he calls Batman a vulgar vigilante. I also really like Sam McMurray's portrayal of Vreeland's associate, Pierce Chapman, who's kind of a standout character. He's He's a complete tool, but one who's really fun to watch. McMurray does this almost over-the-top, snobbish, arrogant, and self-satisfied voice performance that almost rivals Williams' work in pure entertainment value. While Veronica Reland, a character I also really like by the way, did appear in many other episodes after this one, Pierce sadly did not. Both Veronica and Pierce feel like something out of a 30s screwball comedy, as does this very episode, and I would have liked to have seen them again, up to some more shenanigans together. The thing about the Penguin on the animated series was that he didn't really get any episodes besides Birds of a Feather that actually explored his character. Whenever Oswald was the main villain, the plot wasn't really about him. He was just a foil for Batman, and really, he could have been replaced by any of the rogues, and the episodes would still have been the same. But Birds of a Feather does not only finally focus on Penguin, it's actually one of the best rogue-centric episodes of the entire series. It's definitely the best Penguin episode, and I'd even say it's one of the best episodes period, easily in the top 10, in my opinion at least. So, that's the Batman the Animated Series episode, Birds of a Feather. Remember, Arkham Asylum awaits you in the next video.